I just got done watching Amsterdam. This is David O. Russell's brand new movie starring the likes of Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Rock, Mike Myers, Taylor Swift, and so many more. Of course, with it being a David O. Russell movie, you know he's going to have an all-star cast, just like always. And let's get the elephant out of the room. Clearly, if you are in the film Twitter space, or just in general the film space, you understand that there are a lot of things going around about David O. Russell. Behind the scenes on his movies, and even in front of the camera, certain things that he happens to do. Now, I just want to address that because I know there are a lot of people who absolutely do not like him as a person. Apparently, he's a very shitty person. And from everything I've read, I do agree. So I am not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the movie that these actors worked on, that the cast and crew, that the production designers, costume designers, and many different PAs, and whoever knows how many people on this set actually got their first time on a set to actually add to their resume, to add to their IMDb credits. So I do want to give credit to that, and I'm not going to just focus on the director. I like a lot of his movies, personally. I never saw Joy. American Hustle, I think he is a little bit underrated. Like, people shit on that movie way too much. But Silver Linings Playbook and The Fighter, I absolutely love, specifically Silver Linings Playbook. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. So with that out of the way, we are not going to talk about the controversy, but I do agree with a lot of you that he's not a great person. And I have a gut feeling that this might be his last movie he makes, either forever or for a while. But with that said, let's dive into what Amsterdam is about. It's about taking place in the 1930s. Three friends witness a murder and are framed for it and uncover one of the most outrageous plots in American history. Now, with this all-star cast, one of the things that I love to talk about within his movies, and honest to God, when you look at a lot of his movies, they are character-driven. They're not narratively driven. Almost every single one of his movies, when you walk out of it, you go, yeah, the characters were well done. The performances were excellent. In fact, I would argue that the big highlight of every single one of his movies is the characters and the performances. And this movie, Amsterdam, is the exact same way. In fact, this movie has such a low score on Rotten Tomatoes. I went into this movie going, it can't be that bad, and it really isn't. Just to kind of establish right off the bat, this movie, I liked it. It's not great, nor is it amazing. It's a fine, good movie that doesn't really do any damage to anything else out there. But it's one of those movies that you can watch and you can see its struggles, which we'll talk about. But its pros very much outweigh all of that. And the pros there is the performances, are the characters. Because for me, this movie is weighed down quite a bit by its plot and it's some of its meandering that it does in there. But it's the characters that really make this go off the bat. Christian Bale is absolutely amazing in this. He's always amazing. He's one of the best actors out there. But this is truly one of his better performances in the last, 5 years. And that's, again, saying a lot. But he is so good in here. As well as Margot Robbie. She's delightful. She's charismatic. You understand why these two characters really start to fall in love with her in a friendship way, for the most part. And even John David Washington proves again why he is such a great actor and such a great talent. And them three, these three best friends, you fully fall in love with them. And they are the reason to go see this movie. This is not a movie that's basically just a mystery. There's a mystery to it all. But at the heart of it all, it's a best friend bromance, gromance, whatever you want to say it. It's a friendship film. It's about three friends trying to get out of shit. And that's sometimes one of the most relatable stories you could tell, because if you have a group of friends, there's probably a chance that you've gotten into some shit with them. And I really like that Amsterdam actually focuses on that. And I wish they would have done a little bit better mixing with the narrative, which we'll talk about. But again, if you want to talk about the best aspects, it is those three. And the rest of the performances, you can just go down the list. Anya Taylor-Joy is so freaking superb in this. I loved her dynamic in each and every scene. She ate up literally all the dialogue, and I thought she was excellent in here. As well as the rest of the cast, there was not one weak performance in here, but some of the other standouts, of course, was Chris Rock, Michael Shannon, Mike Myers was great to see in here. Taylor Swift! Let's talk about this for a second. She's barely in the movie, so Swift fans, I'm sorry, she's not in this that much. But her scene, I mean, it's a little meme worthy. It'll be something that's going to be all over film Twitter. I lost my shit at one point in it. And it's not the first scene that you see with her. It's one of the last ones. And I just sat there and I was like, holy shit, they just did that. What the hell did I just watch? But to go back from there, she did a solid job for the performance that she gave. And also, Zoe Saldana, I actually thought was a big standout of this. I actually wish she was in the movie a little bit more. I think she gives a very subtle undertone performance that really ties in to Christian Bale's storyline. And again, I wish she was in it a little bit more. And of course, with it taking place in the 1930s, there's one aspect that you got to talk about the movie, and that is the production design. The entire design of this year, you really feel for it all. They bring it to life in a way that is unlike many films, and you feel transported to this time period. The costumes as well, that was one thing that was very layered out. And in fact, both aspects are very important to the storyline due to the fact of what the story has to be told, and certain aspects of the mystery where you're like, that's an interesting idea. Oh, that's why you did that. Found that to be quite interesting, the way that they were able to actually tinker those and touch on that. Again, you see clues throughout it and you're like, that's interesting. I wonder why that choice is. And by the end, you're like, ah, I get that. Smart production on that. Of course, that is sort of where all the pros start to end. And before we start to get to the mixed and con elements, make sure to leave your thoughts down below. If you guys are enjoying this movie, did you like this movie? I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below, as well as make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy talking movies, because that's one of my favorite things to do every single week, and I can't wait to see your guys' thoughts. So continuing with this review, let's get down to the mixed aspects of this movie. And one of those mixed aspects is actually some of the narrative. Like I mentioned, a lot of David O. Russell's movies are pushed forward with the characters. You finish the movie because you really love the characters. Even one of his strongest movies, my favorite one of his, Silver Linings Playbook, is pushed by the characters, not the narrative. So that is one big aspect to think about within this movie. And I don't think the narrative was really much all too inspiring. There's some interesting elements to it and some funny moments for sure, but when it overall comes down to the ending, I found the ending to be a little bit underwhelming. While I liked it, it kind of just ends, and I wish they would have focused a little bit more on there, and particularly certain scenes I wish they kind of would have either chopped up a bit to kind of finish it out a little bit faster or move the pacing along, because that is one of the things. The pacing does feel like the 2 hours and 14 minutes, and I feel like there's a nice hour and 45, hour and 50-minute movie in here, and those 20 extra minutes kind of hurt the film a little bit. But with that said, let's dive into the issues. Now again, like I mentioned, I think David O. Russell gets really good performances out of his actors. We see this in every single movie. But one thing that he struggles with is narrative. I think some of his scripts can be very snappy and dialogue driven and very heavy. But with a story like this, where you have a murder mystery and you're trying to weave a murder mystery theme, comedy, drama, and certain special, and really much when I say special, very interesting themes into your story, when they don't all work and mix, there becomes a drag out pacing of that. And I do think that a lot of this movie falters and did not work for many people because of his direction. And I'm not just saying this because of all the stuff that's come out. It's something that I felt in the same way in American Hustle. I have not seen Joy, like I mentioned. Silver Linings Playbook, one of the weaker aspects of that movie is some of the narrative-driven stuff, but I think the performances and what he gets out of there is great. But given enough, American Hustle had the same issues. But this one kind of starts to show and peel back a little bit more, in my opinion. Because as you're watching this story, there's not really a mystery to kind of guess. It's more of, we got to do this, we have to do this to clear our name. Oh, we did that. Okay, let's move on and do the next thing. Who did this and what are we trying to do? And you start to establish that and you start to understand, okay, well, it's that, probably that player, it's probably that person. And it's not really a mystery all too much. But it's one that, again, you're into it because of the best friends. At not one point in time did I really care what was going on with the story. I was interested to see where the friends would go and to see if they could get out of this. But other than that, I didn't really care where we were going next. And when certain reveals would happen, I'd be like, oh yeah, I saw that happening. Honestly, with the story, a lot of the scenes feel webbed together by like strands of strings. Some are a little bit stronger than others, but overall it feels like we're just moving from scene to scene, and there's no fluid editing in particular there, and I do think that's where some of the directing became some of the bigger issues for this movie. I still like this film. I find it to be a fine, good movie. It's not perfect, it's not great, and it's not one of the best movies of this year. In fact, this is a movie that you watch, you enjoy, and then you probably are going to forget about it. But it depends on what you're going to the movie for. If you're going in for a murder mystery, you're not going to get that really. You'll get some elements, but this is definitely more of a relationship best friend movie about three best friends trying to clear their names. And that's about it. You're into it because of them. Their relationship, their performances, they're all stellar, specifically Christian Bale. And I think when it overall comes down to it, this movie does falter due to the fact that it is not narratively driven. The movie really needed both of those to meld together. The scenes needed to be fluid and strung together with a strong arm. And you don't get that fully here. The production design's great, the costume design's great. It really brings the entire world of Amsterdam and, of course, New Jersey, the city that they are taking place in. But other than that, I didn't fully feel invested in this movie overall. Maybe that's some of the pacing, maybe it's some of the other things, but I do like this movie a lot more than many other people do, and I still think it's a good movie. It's just not a great one, and it's probably going to be one that you forget about quite soon. So with all that said, I'm going to give Amsterdam a C. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Make sure to head on over to Samsung Films on how to see films early. And of course, guys, until next time, stay classy.